Well, the Zondo Commission has been granted more time to deliver its final report. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says it will be difficult to complete the final report by the deadline of May. The application before the High Court was not opposed, but there does seem to be some public reaction to why these delays are taking place, and should we be concerned? Well, luckily we have experts in this, public law expert from the University of Pretoria, Koos Malan, joining us this morning. Koos, hello to you, good morning. We'll talk about the public reaction to this and whether or not these delays decredit the report. But what are the delays? Are you able to fill me in? What do we know is causing these delays?
Well, I think it's actually very simple. This is really a mammoth task. I think right at the beginning, when the Commission started its work, it could really not have expected and could not have foreseen the extreme amount of evidence that would have been collected, and together with that also the huge task of actually sifting through this evidence, testing the evidence, look at the corroboration of the evidence, look at possible rebuttal of evidence and so on, which is indeed a huge task. At the same time, it is very important for any court, and in this case also for a commission, once it publishes a report, to make sure beforehand that all loopholes are actually covered. At the same time, it should take into account that even though it does not convict any person, the findings that it makes obviously does have an effect, a possible effect on the reputation of many people who are implicated in its reports. And precisely for that reason, it should go about with a tremendous amount of preciseness in order to see to it that whenever such reputational damage is caused, there is legitimate reason for that. So even though it is a little bit of a frustration, and even though the public reaction to this application can be understood, I think the measure of negative judgment, so to say, to be passed on Judge Zondo and its commission is only slight, because I can see actually good reason for that.
And one could also imagine that the now Chief Justice, the former acting Chief Justice of the Republic, has been the man very much at the centre of this. He wants to make sure that he's on top of everything. So he wasn't able, I'm sure, Koos, to pawn this off to someone else while he was busy going through the Chief Justice interviews, and as well as his regular work as well. He wanted to make sure that he knew exactly what was going on, and he had to be happy.
Well, yeah, he had a kind of a double task at the same time, and obviously there's no way, especially after the huge reputational damage that the judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission have suffered over the past number of years. The new Chief Justice Zondo that has come in is clearly very much focused on trying to see to it that that damage is now addressed, and that the Judicial Service Commission and that the courts also kind of recover after the huge damage that it has suffered. So precisely for that reason, I can fully understand Zondo's desire to really pay full attention to both the tasks that were on his table.
We also want to take a look at what is going to be Part 5 coming out later this year as well. Part 4, about 1,114 pages, I understand, Koos. The remainder after Part 4 going to look at the SABC, I understand, PRASA, the Waterkloof landing, state capture, and Estina as well. I'm very curious, now that we're getting to the end of the report itself and the reporting in these various volumes, when you talk about the potential reputational damage, what kind of action can an organisation or an individual take, Koos, against either the Chief Justice or the State Capture Commission if it is found that what's being published isn't necessarily true? I'm trying to take the story forward. What happens if after all of this it's found that it wasn't entirely accurate?
Yeah, there is in fact the possibility of inaccuracies. There's no question about that. The reason for that is simply that the measure of testing of evidence before a commission is not as strict and not as detailed as the measure of evidence tested in a criminal court, where the duty is upon the state to prove beyond reasonable doubt the guilt of the accused. In this case, where you deal with a commission of inquiry, it's the the test is not that strict. It's only a question whether there is prima facie evidence, in other words, whether if the evidence that has been presented, if to be believed, is strong enough, is convincing enough to implicate a person or persons in having been involved in corruption or any question that fall within the ambit of the investigation of the Commission. So in other words, it is not to say that what is found in the Commission or by the Commission is necessarily fully truth and will necessarily also stand in a criminal court eventually. But that is not to say that there's necessarily a loophole or a weakness in the way in which the investigation was done. It's simply, as I've said, that the measures that are used in order to test the evidence are in fact different. Well, as to your question specifically, the chances of taking any action against the justice itself, against Justice Zondo, for any findings made by the Commission, to my mind, are zero. It is possible that the Commission can be taken to task for certain findings made. Such findings could possibly be tested through an application for review at the High Court. We might even see that things like that will happen, and I think most probably Judge Zondo also had this at the back of his head. Precisely for that reason, it was incumbent upon him all through the whole procedure to see to it that he properly applies his mind to each and every aspect, thus not only to secure that proper findings were made, but also to obviate the possibility of review applications.
Koos, I'm going to say thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really appreciate you taking time on a Saturday morning to speak to us. Professor Koos Malan from the University of Pretoria, weighing in on the latest extension granted for the handover of the final state capture report. So there will be 5 parts in total. So far, 4 have been released, addressing the likes of SAA, Eskom and the Free State.